Amanda, it's Kelly. We have a code red pineapple. I repeat, red pineapple. Call me back.
Look at that. We are back. Welcome to the Shred the Mic podcast with Zeke and Kelly.
Woo! Good job.
So good to be back. That definitely wasn't the third false start to the beginning of this podcast. Not at all. Who would notice?
No.
Who would notice unless you go to patreon.com/ZekeThomas is rad for all the behind the scenes video and pictures.
Outtakes.
For what is really happening and everything that goes on into making this podcast. Hey, Kelly. What is the Shred the Mic podcast all about?
Oh, well, the Shred the Mic podcast is all about you and I both bringing 5 minutes of brand new stand-up material every week. Some is polished, some is not. And then we give each other feedback on it and see what we want to keep.
There you go. See it live and direct. Well, really recorded, but recorded live before we take it to the stage and see what actually makes it there.
That's right. But if you're into polished stand-up, I do actually have...
I am into polished stand-up.
You are?
Yeah.
Well, do I have the thing for you. My 20-minute headlining birthday set will be premiering on YouTube on Thursday, September 22nd at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to have a watch party. There's going to be a live comment feed. You can, let us know what's funny? How great do I look? All those things. Let's just validate me live, So head over to my YouTube channel, Kelly Shanley, and there's a premiere there. Click notify me, and then you'll get reminded before the premiere. And while you're there, subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Smash that like button.
Smash it.
Like, comment, subscribe. That's how it goes.
Exactly.
All right. Who's going first this week, Kelly?
It is I.
Kelly Shanley. She is going first. Yeah. Coming to the Shred the Mic stage, Kelly Shanley.
Shred the Mic.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the other day I was talking to my best friend on the phone and I apologized for calling her out of the blue. And I was like, what's up with that? These days we all feel compelled to text someone before we call them. And it just made me laugh because of, the days of the landline. I was born in the 80s, came of age in the 90s, very much a landline kid, And back then, you couldn't ask someone if they were, you just called. You just called and hoped that they answered, because there was no way to check first. You couldn't make sure they were emotionally prepared for a phone conversation. You didn't fucking know. You just called. And, the phone had one purpose, which was to answer it and talk to whoever just called you, But when you were calling someone, you didn't know who was going to answer. You're calling your best friend. Their scary big brother could answer, the ones that could humiliate you in under 5 seconds somehow before they hand off the phone, or the chatty dad who's wanting to relive your AYSO soccer game from the weekend, or their mom who always has something to discuss. Oh, could you put your mom on the line real quick? No, Karen, this is my phone call. All right. I have some very serious boy drama to share with my best friend. Call my mom on your own time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, there was also the chance that no one answered. And then you got to deal with the answering machine, which sounds better, but it wasn't. Mm-hmm. It was not, because the answering machine was A, for everyone, and B, out loud. Okay? So if you happen to call and your friend was one of those households who were we don't answer the phone during dinner time, and you're leaving a message, you could just be monologuing for the entire family as they eat their spaghetti. You don't know. You don't know. So you had to keep it short, but also even when they check the answering machine, you still don't know who's going to check the messages because they're messages for everyone, and you just had to get in, get to the point, get out. Amanda, it's Kelly. We have a code red pineapple. I repeat, red pineapple. Call me back. Gone, I don't know. Also, if there was more than one phone in the house, which usually there was, anyone in the house could just pick up a different phone and listen to your entire conversation. Mm-hmm. Your entire conversation. You think Alexa listening is a violation of your privacy? Try your friend's older brother listening to you tell your best friend how you only found out you got your first period because your crush came up and told you and pointed out the stain on the back of your pants. Yeah. Guess what Big Bro's going to say to you every time he answers the phone from now on? Yeah. So anyway, that's how I feel about landlines. How am I doing on time? What do I got?
You got about 2
I got
minutes.
2 minutes? All right, cool. So speaking of landlines, there was an incident I want to share with you guys. Back in the late 90s, we'll say, my grandpa had just gotten his first desktop computer. Yeah, it's a moment in time. And I was on the phone with him, trying to teach him how to send an email. Okay. He was 90 at the time, we'll say. And like, you guys, I can't emphasize how difficult this was. Like, there's no way to, like, I can't explain an email to someone who used to literally receive telegraphs, you know, like I can't do that. Like, how do I explain Wi-Fi to someone whose childhood was marked by such technological advancements as the radio? I can't, like, I couldn't do it. And like, I was filled with rage and I almost yelled at my grandpa, which is not okay. Cause like he was not like an old racist grandpa. Like he was a very kind, like he had 2 copies of Barack Obama's The Audacity of Hope. Okay. So he was a very progressive grandpa. Did not deserve to be yelled at. Not to mention, like, I'm an entitled millennial, you know, I don't get to yell at someone from the greatest generation, you know, like I just don't get to do that. And he is from the greatest generation. It's called the greatest generation, in case you're wondering. Anyone who was born between 1901 and 1927 and came of age during the Great Depression and then either served in World War II or worked, like contributed labor to its victory. That's the greatest generation, right? So basically, they did what we should have done during COVID. You know, they banded together, they helped each other, and they emerged victorious, right?
Yep.
Instead of hoarding toilet paper, denouncing science, and storming the Capitol. They would be so disappointed if they were still here. To play on the entitled millennial bit, I'm such a bad granddaughter. My grandpa actually wrote a memoir, okay? He wrote it, and I'm such an asshole. I've never even read it, okay? I can't, like, here it is. And I'll tell you why. Because the title is literally Rural Reminiscences, The Agony of Survival. Like, I'll read it someday, but like every time I pick it up, I'm just like, ooh, I can't touch that right now. But I do know some highlights because my mom read it because she's a good daughter. Such as that my grandpa used to share a toothbrush with his entire family. His entire family. Like, I didn't even share a bathroom with my entire family, okay? Like, the only thing I shared with my entire family was my deep obsession with Josh Hartnett. And that was inadvertently when they kept picking up the phone and listening to my private conversations. All right. Thank you so much.
Kelly and Shanley, everybody.
Shredded.
Ooh.
Calling it back, baby.
You know, literally calling it back.
Literal callback. Guys, if you haven't gotten your copy of Rural Reminiscences,
Even the title is a challenge.
It's a mouthful.
It is.
My favorite though is the subheading, The Agony of Survival.
Yeah.
Like, that just makes you want to
Not read it.
Not read it at all.
Look at this font. Look at
that is an academic font, everybody. That is tiny and it hurts my 43-year-old eyes in ways that you can't even fathom. Like,
also, I just opened up to a page. The chapter is called Hooves and Feathers. And this section is called Cattle. So he lived on a farm, in case you were wondering. I'm going to read it, okay? I'm going to read it. I'm a monster.
I think my first comedy special is going to be called Hooves and Feathers. Why? Because of this moment right here.
Because why not?
Yeah. Man, that is so hardcore. I mean, and just look at that little house on the prairie farm. I'm sorry, guys. Those of you who are not watching either on Spotify or YouTube, you can't see this, but it's basically they're behind like a Model T, and it's like this old-timey family in black and white, and it just looks dusty. You know, that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
I just think everybody was just like really just had a lot of dirt on their face, not unlike when we went dune buggying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways. Great stuff.
Thank you.
I never had the opportunity to meet Grandpa Ken, but But yeah, just the book alone just has given me so much joy and the stories I've heard.
He was a real one.
Yeah,
He was.
he really was. And very progressive, apparently, which, you know.
Both my grandpas were.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What else did we have before that?
Landlines.
I was trying not to get lost in my own harrowing, and this is might be the only pitfall of this bit, is that you're just going to send everybody into their own thoughts a little bit about if they remember what having a landline is back, and just be like all the horror stories. And I was just like, oh, remember when crank calling was a after school activity, or you know, just monologuing during dinner time. Definitely remember that. One of my favorite things to do, my friends who do leave me voicemails or voice messages, which is sometimes how I communicate with my friends, even though it's technically via text, is I play it out loud for whoever's in the car with me. So
just a throwback.
Yeah, just to be like, oh, remember when this was a thing?
Yeah,
here we go. Let's listen to somebody's voicemail.
Yeah.
Where they're rambling sometimes too much, and sometimes with no regard for who might listen.
Yeah, and you couldn't like redo it. Like now, if you don't like your voicemail, sometimes you can like re-record it. Right? You can do that.
No, you got one take.
It was live, baby.
Yeah.
Live.
Yeah. So that was great. I love that. But I think that's just something to be aware of, is like, watching like somebody's like, if they're of a certain age, that just remember like, oh man, I left some voicemails in the day.
I mean, that could be, I could work it in.
Yeah.
I could just like bring it up and then pause and be like,
go ahead.
Remember that?
Drink it in.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Yeah, I remember our very first answering machine we had was like is bigger than my laptop by like.
Yeah.
Like it was this big, and it had just like one button.
Yeah.
And I remember,
big button.
Yeah, one big button. And I remember my mom, you know, she's Brazilian. She would like do the outgoing message in both English and Portuguese inside of like 30 seconds.
I love that.
I was good, except for the occasional like racist asshole who would like leave very horrible messages on our answering machine, which was just kind of like, oh, I guess that's still a thing, huh? Like. Yeah.
Any opportunity.
Any opportunity to be a coward anonymously.
I can be racist.
Hell yeah.
Great.
Indulge your best behavior, guys. But yeah, I just to think how much technology we have like in this laptop that we're using here versus this machine that was, you know, a fourth the size of this coffee table that we're using.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, it did one job.
Yeah.
Kind of well.
It did it well.
Yeah.
You just had to be aware of how it worked. But also like the sensitivity to like calling people without texting first. Mm-hmm. Like I have people I'm very close with who've been like, oh my God, what? And I'm like, I'm just sorry. I just, you know, if you're like texting back and forth for 15 minutes and I'll just call and be like, I thought this would be easier over the phone. I've terrified people that way before. And I'm like, sorry.
Yeah. Sometimes I just roll the dice. You know, there's like some people are on the speed dial that I'm just like, I'm going to just roll the dice and call them, and sometimes they'll text me back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also forgot about the multiple phones on one line scenario, which is where you could have like basically somebody's sibling be the equivalent of the NSA and just like listening on the line
the whole time.
And sometimes you might catch them breathing a little bit because they're like, they got lazy and they started laying down.
And you're like, get off the phone.
Yeah.
How long have you been listening? Like,
yeah. Oh,
terrified.
Man. Yeah. And then don't even get me started on modems and landlines. Woo. Kids, you have no idea how good you had it.
Yeah.
All right. That was great. Loved all that. Was there something before that I missed?
No, I started with landline and then, you know.
Brought it back to Grandpa Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to mine there. It's just a matter of picking out which moments, you know, have, and maybe if you have like a really good story of, you know, what was the worst time?
Yeah.
What was the worst message you left? Maybe a specific about, you know, a parent or a brother, you know, eavesdropping. I mean, that could be a whole 5 minutes just on landlines.
It could be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, I'll keep it then.
Yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
some good stuff.
Thanks, Zeke.
Yeah. Let's see.
You feeling ready? You feeling shreddy?
I think so.
Let's step up to that mic that you're already
That I'm already stepped up
sitting
to?
in front of. Yes.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the mic, Mr. Zeke Thomas.
Shred the mic!
Thank you so much. Please give it up for your host tonight, Miss Kelly Shanley. She crushed it. Guys, I just want to touch on a favorite punching bag of mine, the Santa Monica Buy Nothing group. The Santa Monica Buy Nothing group. Oh, boy, we got some winners today. Gifting 2 swim caps. Whose noggin needs them? Whose noggin needs 50 cents worth of plastic? Nobody.
Oh my God.
2 sports bra and bike shorts. One of them cute. What about the other?
It's a very sweaty piece of clothing.
Comes into contact with a lot of body parts, everybody. Ooh. Bag of Ulta samples. So literally samples that you collected at a makeup store that you are offering to everyone else. I swear to God, Santa Monica is a well-to-do city most of the time. I don't know why we have such weird, like, might as well throw out ketchup packets too and just be like, pick these up at the local Jack in the Box. Oh, who wants them?
I have some. We could.
You want to put them online?
I don't know.
Dude, we should do that as a bit, by the way. 2 used bath mats. Acceptable condition.
Acceptable to who?
Exactly. That's my point. Y'all need to stop it. I'm going to keep reporting you guys just to keep you in check. Okay, real material that I really wanted to share this week. So yesterday, I had an actor friend of mine who approached me about an audition she had from this big casting office. It was probably 14 pages worth of sides, and she was like, here's the deal. There's one problem with it. I have to play the role of a disassociative meth addict. Oh. And I was like, oh. Now, she has a very wholesome face, wholesome look about her. And I was like, this is going to be challenging, right? But she knew that I did some acting for a large part of my life. And, you know, we just sort of share our trials and tribulations. And she also knew that I was sober. And it wasn't until Kelly connected the dots for me yesterday and reminded me, hey, you know, the reason why people come to you with these things is because you're sober and maybe you have some experience. And, you know, for me, I was like, well, I have had access to people who have been on meth. My advice to her in the moment, without really thinking about it, was like, ooh, if you don't have access to AA meetings, you should definitely go there. Or just in general 12-step meetings, because you will come into former and or current meth addicts. So that's thing 1. And I was like, thing 2, check out Breaking Bad. Some really good depictions of people who are either who are on meth, or I could get into it. But it turns out I get these questions more often than I really know. And it's it's usually well-intentioned, but like people know I've been sober almost 20 years. And thank you. But they have questions. And I'm kind of far removed from the game, but I still... The best way I can describe my maniacal drug use is that I was a human garbage can of drug addiction. Like I was a garbage disposal. It was just like, let's just put everything in there and see what happens. And, you know, that's why I was done before I was 24. That's what happens. So another one of my more favorite questions I've received. There was this one time we were listening to a true crime podcast with your sister, and there was a murder, and one of the characters was described as freebasing cocaine in the course of the podcast. Sure. Laurel stops the podcast and asks me, she's like, hey, Zeke, what is freebasing? ... Is it to do a lot of coke? I was so happy. I was just blown away. It just warmed my heart that neither of you guys knew what freebasing coke was. You just don't have a lot of coke experience. And like, I need to surround myself with more people who don't do a lot of coke in general. But it was great. It was great that I could share what freebasing was and just be like, well, if you're white, you freebase. And if you're black, do crack cocaine. And of course, the criminal justice system punishes things differently because of that. Anyways, that part's not funny, but it is real. But yes, so I've become this resource to people who don't do a lot of drugs about drugs. And if nothing else, I guess that's why I got sober. Oh yeah, another one. I'll end with this one. Hey Zeke, should I take this random pill of OxyContin? No, you shouldn't. What kind of question is that? Do you have a broken bone? Do you have cancer? No, you shouldn't take that. You're going to have a bad time. Or a really good time. You know what? What do I know? Guys, that's my time. Thank you so much.
Shredded.
Woo! Give it up for Zeke Thomas.
Woo! Woo! Yeah.
Woo. Oh my God.
Yeah, getting fired up, talking about the old drug days and
Hey, man.
all the questions that I get about it.
They're good questions.
They are.
They are. I mean, to me, they're good questions because I don't know the answers.
No, and I love the fact that you don't know the answers. Like,
Yeah.
if you're like, oh, Kel, or you're like, Laurel, I got this one. So here's how you freebase. I'd be like, oh, no.
Uh-oh.
I've made a mistake. Hey, Kel, how do you know about freebasing?
I feel misled.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a little off brand.
When she asked that, I was like, ooh, good question.
Yeah. Me too. I too am here for the response.
I second that question. I also don't know. Yeah, it's one of those terms you hear. It gets thrown around. And you're just like, yeah, freebasing. Sure. And I was just glad. She's like, could you pause for a second? It was such a good question.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I think if you rack your brain, you could probably come up with many more scenarios in which people have asked you. I think that's a really funny bit of like, people know that I'm sober, so they'll ask me fucked up questions about drugs. They're
Sometimes just about life too, by the way.
right.
That's
Like
the
just
other part.
I love that bit. I love that. Like,
That's a good premise.
it's a really good premise. And
Yeah.
like, it's, I don't know. It's a way you can talk about sobriety without talking about sobriety. It's because it's a big part of your life, obviously, but that's such a fun way to be like, what do people think of me? Like, and has there ever been a question you could not answer?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I was not an IV drug user, so like I have been in recovery rooms with people who talk about the experience, but like I don't have direct experience of shooting dope into my veins. Like,
Oh, good.
yeah, no, that's great. We don't like that. But if you talk about the pharmaceutical grade stuff, hell yeah, okay, I'm your guy. But yeah, no, that's a very, I've never thought about mining sobriety in that very interesting way.
Well, so like Laurel asked you a question. I've obviously asked you questions. Jordan asked you about the oxy.
I was trying to keep his name out of
I'm
it.
sure that my mom has asked you a question. Like, you could do a bit about the family that you're joining,
Yeah.
and how different our experiences with drugs are. That could be fun.
Yeah, no, it's great. I will share this with you guys. It's like while we were in Lisbon, at one point people started sharing like their drunk stories and their craziest, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to us. Drunk stories. And I'm just sitting there quietly just being like,
It's adorable.
this is all adorable. I was like,
Did you end up in prison? No.
I was like, did it end up in you getting arrested? I don't want to hear this story. Then it's not any good. Like, yeah. Did you have a gun pulled on you? Nope. Then get out. Like,
See, there's a great bit here. It's a great bit.
yeah. Yeah. But, part of it too is like, I still feel like I'm trying to impress, like, not look like a complete piece of trash to your family. Just being like, all right, I just want to like let you know this is before I was 24. So a lot of shit happened. You just got to figure it out. Sometimes you go to like, high school parties and people are like doing nitrous and you get a gun pulled on you for no reason. I mean, I was probably being a dipshit, but like, I don't think that happened in Tahoe. Like
I'm like, how do you do nitrous? Is that a whippet?
Similar. Yeah. It's this. Okay.
This is our life.
Yeah. It's kind of like whipping, but when you show up at a party and there is a giant nitrous tank and you just see people staring at the ceiling and you're like, I think I'm at the wrong party. Like,
Yeah, we didn't have that in Tahoe.
yeah, that's good.
Just a lot of weed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think you had a better time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you
Anyway,
go. Okay. So
great
that was
stuff.
that.
I love that bit. I love that premise. Oh my God, the Buy Nothing group. Acceptable for bath mats?
Acceptable condition.
Acceptable condition. For who? Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your joke. I literally was like, for who? Like that. That's hilarious. And I loved how you did it today and just were like, boom, boom, boom. Here's these 3 things that people shared and then moved on. It's like, Because that's kind of how it happens. You're just going about your day, and then you look on Facebook, and you're like, what are people doing? And then you move on with your day. Like,
I love the fact that I have notifications set for this group just so I can use you guys for material. You know, it's just what do you got? And to be honest, this week's weren't all that offensive as prior weeks, but it was just like, you guys, come on now.
Well, I think it's just like, I appreciate the, underlying purpose of the Buy Nothing group.
Yes.
But there are things you should just throw away. There are things you just throw away, like dirty bath mats and used underwear. Like, those are not things you need to offer to people.
No, stop it.
Yeah. No, that was fun. I liked your stuff today.
Thank you. I liked your stuff today.
Thank you.
Hey Kelly, how can people find you on the internet?
Oh, well, they can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Kelly A. Shanley. YouTube, I'm at Kelly Shanley. And Medium, if you like to read funny stuff, at Kelly Shanley as well. And don't forget, Thursday, September 22nd, my 20-minute set is going to premiere on YouTube. So head over to my channel and subscribe and click notifications, and then join us for the watch party at 7 p.m. Pacific time, September 22nd.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. What about you, Zeke? Where are you on the internet?
I'm so glad you asked. You can find me at ZekeThomas Rad on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You can find me at ZekeThomas. Facebook, if you still use that, you can find me on the Santa Monica Buy Nothing group. You can find me on the Santa Monica Buy Nothing group. Hell yeah, I'm there. Just lurking around, just waiting for you to shit post something on there. I just can't wait. And then, of course, you got me on Patreon, patreon.com/ZekeThomas is rad. Join me on Patreon, join the community for as little as $5 a month. And, of course, join our Johnny Utahs, Sophia Monroe, Jonathan Hamrick at the $25 level. That's right, the Johnny Utah level each and every week. Anyone who joins at this level gets a name check here on the old podcast. I think that's it, Kel.
I think so. I think we shredded.
We did.
Yeah.
We shredded indeed. You guys are awesome. You guys are legion. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Shred the Mic is written, hosted, and produced by Zeke Rodrigues Thomas and Kelly Shanley. Audio engineering by Zeke Rodrigues Thomas for Mindjam Media. And when in doubt, shred the mic.